it would be remiss of us not to begin by looking back at the extraordinary events across, we all lost count how many minutes it ended up being, 112 or something ridiculous, at St James's Park.
The break is on. Joelinton, edge of the box, cuts inside. Joelinton, oh no. Dear. It's a wild swing back to Mainu, and a great save by Ramsdale. Mainu shot. Mateus Cunha into the area. Ramsdale pushes it clear. And Burmo! Oh, what a chance! And Burmo over the top from 6 yards. Gordon for the run of Ramsey, maybe. Far side of the area. Lennon's good goalkeeping.
Oh, he's going to be off.
Is he going to book him for diving? A second yellow card. Ramsey complains and protests. Oh dear. Newcastle are in the ear of the fourth official as Gordon makes his way into the box. Goes down. Nothing given. Well, all he has, yes, he's pointed to the spot. Peter Banks has given a penalty. Gordon from the penalty spot. Here we go. It's in. Gordon down the middle. And he has delivered in a huge moment. Bruno Fernandes in line with the penalty box. Sends it in. It's an equaliser. Newcastle's lead in first half added on time. Didn't last long. And it's Casemiro. Bit of wrestling going on. Chow being held and Joelinton. In it comes. Gordon round the back.
Oh, he's missed it.
Gordon made the run round the back and tried to connect with a corner. Mazraoui's header comes to Bruno Fernandes. He scoops it up. And a big save from Ramsdale to deny Yoro with a header. Xerxes goes for a shot.
Oh, what a save.
Aaron Ramsdale. Incredible save. And Osula starts running and he can chase after it. Maguire coming across, then backs away. Osula stumbles but keeps it in. Can Newcastle win it? Osula step overs. Osula! Oh my word! William Osula, that is magical! And 10-man Newcastle United are going to win surely. And they're going to deserve to win with a goal. It is absolutely incredible from William Osula. Osula is the hero at St James's Park.
An extraordinary goal to end a fairly extraordinary game, Steve. There's a lot to pick out of those. I'm not going to call it 90 minutes because it was so many more in the end. I start with a winning goal, and I guess a reward for someone who has come in for plenty of criticism, but who we've always seen work his hardest.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't expect it. I mean, he's obviously done quite well initially. Didn't he lead the ball off to Trippier? Trippier plays it down the line. Initially, I'm thinking he's going to fall over because he does well to keep it in, but I'm thinking he's kind of keeping his feet. And I mean, where I was sat, I was right behind it. And as soon as it left his foot, I was like, it's in. And it hit the side of the net. And I mean, it was a superb finish. I mean, I have to say, it probably is an unlikely source. But wow, I mean, what a goal. But I have to be brutally honest, I felt, Ramsdale made two very good saves. One in particular from Turkey, that was an incredible save. But I thought Newcastle were excellent, considering it as well. That I played, all of the second half with 10 men. I thought they were brilliant and deserved it.
Yeah, and we will come back to the red card incident shortly. One of many things to talk about from last night's game. But let's hear from last night's match winner first of all then, shall we? Here is Will Osula.
I was already training that yesterday in the finishing drill, practicing that. So, when I saw the ball coming down the channel, I only had one thing in my mind, is to try and beat my man and get my shot off. So I know that I can take players on and have end product in games. So I know I had belief, and I was practicing that a lot yesterday, and I knew that any opportunity, I'm just going to be direct and try and be the game changer. When I saw it went in, I was just like, I was so happy because wow, it was an amazing feeling, so loud, the stadium, St James Park, and yeah, best fan base in the world, so loud, and I mean, yeah, I'm going to enjoy that goal, yeah, for sure.
He is, particularly, Razor, when it is only a second league goal of the season, and it had been such a long time since the first one.
Yeah, the other one, interestingly, was when Newcastle also had 10 men against Liverpool, and it was late. It almost got them a point that night. Obviously, they went on to concede an injury time goal to lose that game. This time, Osula's goal really counted for something. It meant everything, and it was a brilliant moment for him. Steve talked about the quality of the finish, and yeah, I think that the television camera angle and the view we had from the commentary box was the perfect view because you could see the whip on the shot but how he not just whips it, gets the power in, but keeps it controlled and quite flat is incredible technique. And he's talked about practicing that, like rehearsing that type of shot and move in training. And that's why you do that. Practice makes permanent. That's what they say, isn't it? So brilliant for him. I think he's been unlucky this season because he started with that goal against Liverpool, then got his first Premier League start in the next match at Leeds. Didn't really happen for him, but he got a couple of League Cup goals in September. And then he had, I think it was about 3 months out injured. And that was at a time when Nick Voltemada's initial run of goals had come to a halt. Johan Wissa wasn't quite fit, but was then coming back. But obviously he's had his fitness issues. So if William Osula hadn't missed so much football with an ankle injury, Newcastle would have used him a lot more, and he would have had more opportunities. I'm sure he would have scored more goals, and he would have developed further. But what he did last night will never be forgotten. You just hope that there's going to be more moments like that. Maybe not as special and as meaningful, but perhaps more goals, big contributions like that. There's definitely, I think, I don't want to say a movement among the fan base, Colin, but a lot of support for him. Probably because Newcastle needs solutions, they need goals, they need something in attack at centre forward. And I know he scored off the right last night, and they were playing with 10 men, so it wasn't kind of a usual formation for them because things had to be different. But when he comes on and does that, then the supports for him and the calls for him to feature even more will only grow. It's the greatest moment of his young career so far, and you can only applaud and credit him for what he did.
Yeah, and we've heard his initial reaction to it as well in the little clip we've just played. Do we hear from Eddie Howe about the winning goal as well?
Yeah, because William Osula mentioned it straight after the match about that extra work that he'd been doing, and Eddie Howe confirmed that, yes, William Osula had asked, he wanted to do additional shooting practice at the end of Newcastle's training session on Tuesday.
What happened was we finished training, and he comes over to the coaches where me and the guys were, and he said, I want to do 10 more balls. And we said, yeah, no problem. And he honestly replicated that goal to a T.
How many did he score yesterday?
He scored 8 out of 10, which is incredible, really.
Did you know then? Did you really feel as if he would put it away when he set off down the right?
No, I didn't think he was even going to shoot from that. from the position that he picked the ball up in. He's got so much work to do. But I think the credit that he deserves is the length of run, the speed that he's going at. He's been able to keep his technique on the shot while off balance. So that was an incredible goal. I think it'll be one of those goals that's played again and again. And great moment for him because he is a lad that really practices his art. He's always the last off the training pitch in terms of working. And yes, he's a young player, but you've still got to want to do it. And I'm delighted he's got his rewards today. So
brilliant night for end to the night for him, and you can text us and call us and congratulate and praise William Osula between now and 8 o'clock tonight. Have a chat with Steve Howie about that. I think people, Steve, will also want to talk about the red card for Jacob Ramsey. What's your opinion on the second yellow? The first yellow I don't think is up for debate, so it's the second yellow in particular.
I think it's a yellow. I think the player himself, he goes to do what he intends to do, which is to maybe get a little nick and then go down. I think he's halfway down, or he's going to go down. He doesn't get the contact. I think he kind of half tries to stop himself, but still goes down. But obviously the referee, the intent is there. So he issues him with a second yellow. I mean, I know we'll probably have people on here, it'll be sort of saying, no, it was a sending off. So that's fine. That's your opinion. My opinion was that it was a second yellow. And I guarantee as well, them same people, if it was the other way around, they'd be saying exactly the same. So, which is the fact that if it was a Man United player, 100% deserved to be sent off. So, I think the lads, I mean, I know he'd sort of said to the referee, I didn't mean to go down, but ultimately his actions spoke louder than words. And I think it put the referee in a position which he didn't really have anywhere to go with it.
There has been quite a bit of criticism raised. Obviously you could hear it and feel it within the stadium last night, and then plenty on social media, plenty of text messages already coming into us tonight being critical of the referee. The general reaction was very negative towards Peter Banks almost across the whole of the night, really. Yeah,
and it has been a few other times this season because there's been some controversial decisions or non-decisions that he has been responsible for. But look, I mean, he's not the only referee with Newcastle that's had that, and that's just the way it is for officials, isn't it? I think the moment and the actual when he made the decision, it was a little bit confusing because it took a while and it wasn't initially clear, and I'm sure that he pointed for a goal kick and was then about to move away. But then I've watched it back from a couple of angles, and I don't know if the referee is in communication with the assistant on the far side or not, but there is a bit of a delay, and Bruno Fernandes runs about 30 yards and gets in his ear. Harry Maguire, who himself was involved in a simulation incident for Man United at the weekend, goes towards the referee, and it's only after that that the decision is made. But then there was also a delay in awarding Newcastle a penalty. So I don't know if he was just giving himself extra thinking time, or I'm not suggesting he was swayed, but there was clearly, from the moment Jacob Ramsey went down, there wasn't an immediate response from the referee. There was a wait. There were other things going on. There were probably lots of voices at him. I don't know if he was communicating with the other officials, but it was almost quite a low-key red card. I actually didn't see the red card being issued or brandished, but the fans didn't like it. Fans didn't react. And one thing, watching Jacob Ramsey's reaction, was he just he went down, was sitting down, picked himself up, didn't appeal, and was about to get on with the game. I don't know if there was any contact. There might have been a little bit, but I think Steve does make a fair point that if it was at the other end, if it was a Man United player, then St James's Park would be screaming for a booking, whether it was a first yellow or a second yellow. It's one that we're going to debate. I think we'll probably know where most Newcastle fans will land on this one, Colin.
Yes, and the other point, of course, Steve, is that it doesn't matter whether it's a first or a second yellow card. The referee has to apply the same interpretation regardless. Let's hear what Eddie Howe had to think of it as well, Razor.
Well, yeah, Eddie Howe's view at full time, and he would not have had the opportunity to really look at the incident in any detail at the point at which he gave this interview, but he felt that the referee got it wrong.
I thought it was really harsh. I think referees have got to be really careful before brandishing too many yellow cards for simulation, because I don't think Jacob Ramsey was looking for a penalty. He maybe anticipated there would be contact. There wasn't. He lost his footing. Knowing the player as I do, I don't think there's any chance that he's looking to dive there. So I think it was a really, really tough moment on us, and especially after our recent form. I think the half-time, my biggest challenge was to make sure we didn't feel sorry for ourselves or think, here we go again. Players were magnificent in both halves for me. Brilliant defensive performance in the second half, proved we can defend, and indebted to our goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, and he's actually turned the conversation there very unwittingly, Razor, quite nicely, Eddie Howe, because we're going to talk about Aaron Ramsdale next anyway. Changing goal last night.
Yeah, no, it's intentional. It's planned. We put these things together.
It wasn't planned by him, but it was planned by you. I'll give you the credit.
Yes. Well, yeah, it just leads nicely into a discussion about the goalkeeper. Steve's already mentioned Aaron Ramsdale. I think he justified his inclusion last night, didn't he, with some big saves in both halves, but particularly the one from Joshua Zirkzee at the end when it was 1-1 and not long before William Osula scored. And that was of huge importance, but it was a terrific save. It was a brilliant shot as well that was almost right in the corner. Very nearly went in. Ramsdale got up, and he's been criticised for not making enough saves during his time in goal, particularly when Nick Pope had that spell out injured November and December. Well, last night he made saves, and big ones, and Eddie Howe explained afterwards why he brought Ramsdale in for Pope.
Well, I just think Aaron's an outstanding goalkeeper. He's trained really, really hard. He's been patiently waiting for his chance. Although he's played a few games where I think he's done okay, I think today's his best performance by a long way. He's really grabbed his opportunity, which is all you can ask for any player when you bring them into the team. We love our goalkeepers. We love Nick. We love Aaron. I'm in the tough job where I've got to pick one. Today I decided to go for him, and Aaron didn't let us down and made some great saves.
And Steve, Eddie Howe's done what all diplomatic football managers do and doesn't actually answer the question. Because he was asked why. Why did he make the change? Well, we're not any the wiser. Why do you think he made the change?
Because he's been making mistakes. I think the thing is, I've always been an advocate for Nick Pope. I've always sort of said that he his kicking's not great. I mean, let's be honest, everybody knows that. But I always said that I think he's a very good goalkeeper, goal stopper, stop shots. That's his job. If I was to have a goalkeeper, that one was good with his feet, but one was stopping the ball going in the back of the net. I know which one I'm going to choose, and that's why I've always sort of gone on the side of Finnick Poor. But I think he's had recently a couple of mistakes. I mean, you look at one of the Everton goals, he kind of parries it out. Normally, if you can get a hold of it. Sometimes you can't, but you parry it in a certain area where it's not in the danger zone. So there was that one, and there's been a couple of others. So I think that's why I think the manager's obviously been diplomatic. But as a goalkeeper, yeah, that's what it comes down to. It's harsh, but that's the way it is at the moment. Now I think you've got Aaron Ramsdale. He's in pole position, and it's up to him to keep it. I think if Aaron Ramsdale was going to be a little bit picky at himself, I think he would say he'd be disappointed with some of his kicking yesterday. But certainly the shot stopping yesterday was excellent. A couple in the first half, but the second half, the header from Euro, which is down, so that's a difficult one to get right. But honestly, the one from Zerke is a wonder save. It's an incredible save.
And it's not likely to be a position that Eddie Howe starts rotating. This is now Aaron Ramsdale's shirt to lose again, isn't it?
Yeah, because as a defender, I had the same when I was at Newcastle. You Shaka Hislop, Pavel Cernicek, Shea Given. I mean, obviously, once Shea got in, that was it. It was Shea. But we did have a period of time when it was Shaka or Pav. You just didn't know where you were. So therefore, you'd end up turning around to the goalkeeper and sort of saying, listen, if you've got to come and wipe me out, but get the ball, just do that. And then, of course, 9 times out of 10, you're getting clattered when you don't need to be. If the goalkeeper gives you clear, concise, kind of shout. Worst kind of shout that you used to get was a goalkeeper shouting keepers, and then you were like, okay. And then in a split second, he would shout away. Yeah. And then you're kind of in no man's land. But I think to have a goalkeeper that's kind of there week in, week out, it's the same as having a defensive partner, same as having a partner up front or somebody that you work with in midfield. You learn the strengths, you learn the weaknesses, and then you work around that.
Yeah, get in touch with us tonight with your calls and messages, thoughts on Aaron Ramsdale's performance last night. Razor, let's hear a bit more from Eddie Howe now.
Well, there's quite rightly a lot of attention on Newcastle's second half performance when they had 10 men after a substitution at half-time, Joe Willock on for Harvey Barnes, and how well they did with 10 against 11 and restricted Manchester United to not many chances, really, apart from a couple of the ones that resulted in big saves from Ramsdale. But prior to all of that, Eddie Howe told us that he really liked what he saw in the first half, 11v11, before Jacob Ramsey was sent off.
We really had a spell after the Everton game where we've got through quite a bit of work with the players to try and ignite our in-possession play. I think a lot of that came out today. It was a much better, sharper performance. I know that sometimes comes with the evening games and sort of a wetter pitch and different feel of the night games here. But I thought it was a really high-class performance from us. The only thing that was missing was a goal and maybe more goal-mouth action, but I'm hoping that will come as we get more confident.
And psychologically as well, Steve, it just ends that little run of home league defeats as well that people like me start talking about when it gets to 3.
Yeah, and then at least then you won't get the absolute buffoons on here sort of seeing Eddie Howe's run his course and go, because that's what we have been getting, which is absolutely ridiculous. You get it on national radio stations as well. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good performance. I thought first off, before the sending off, I think Newcastle were by far the better team. Yeah, Man United had a couple of little opportunities. Man United are absolutely flying since Michael Carrick's gone in there. And the biggest chance was probably in Wermo's one, where he's got to do better. But I thought Newcastle were the better team. But the second half, you're looking at it and thinking, this is going to be tough. But in all fairness, Newcastle were the better team in the second half.
Yeah. One more thing to hear from Eddie Howe, Razor?
Well, yes, the win has taken them up the table, but from 13th to 12th. So they haven't moved very far. But Brentford in 7th, who occupy what is probably the final European place. Certainly that's what you'd expect. They're only 5 points ahead of Newcastle now and 4 points ahead of Sunderland. And we shouldn't discount them if we're talking about Europe as well. Newcastle a point behind Sunderland, 9 matches to go. So after losing 3 in a row at home in the league and 5 out of the last 6 in the league, home and away, Eddie Howe just feels last night was so important.
Yeah, amazing moment. We needed it. We haven't had enough moments like that. So hopefully a turning point for us. It's huge. We've had some tough moments and we've had to absorb a lot of that negativity, and we've taken it on ourselves. We know that we want to do better, and I think you can see again there's about 4 or 5 players getting cramped today. Our game schedule's been unbelievably tough, but we're trying to navigate our way through it in the best way possible. But you need sometimes a lift to help the spirits, and we needed that.
Yeah, because Steve, the schedule, with all due respect to Everton, last night was, and obviously they came and won, with all due respect to them, last night probably the start of a really, really ridiculous looking run of games. Obviously Man City, doubleheader against Barcelona with Chelsea in the middle, and then the derby to finish. Eddie, how they're talking about the run of fixtures up until now, but the next 3 weeks he needs to get everything he possibly can out of every individual.
Yeah, and I mean it's just a tough next couple of weeks. I mean, you just mentioned the teams that you're playing, but I mean, you look at it. For me, I think you look at it in a positive way, because you've got to think, well, that's because we're doing well in the FA Cup, still going in the Champions League as well. Kind of qualifying for that final stage, which has never been done before. So yes, it's tough, but why else do you want to kind of qualify? Why else are you winning the early rounds of FA Cup? Why are you winning the games in the Champions League to get to this stage? So yes, it's tough, but what a fantastic opportunity and place to be.
And Razor, we've heard from Eddie Howe plenty tonight. We're going to hear from him again tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, his next scheduled pre-match press conference is in the morning. That's ahead of the cup tie Saturday night football against Manchester City at St James's Park. FA Cup 5th round. Our commentary on Saturday, as well as on BBC Radio Newcastle, will be on the BBC Sounds app, and you can listen on your smart speaker if you have one. Ask it to play BBC Radio Newcastle. It's going to be absolutely massive. The rewards over the next couple of weeks, if they can get more big results, excuse me, are absolutely huge. You mentioned, excuse me, Colin.
That's all right.
Just get my get my breath back.
That's all right.
The run of games in the various competitions, flip-flopping between domestic and Europe, Cup and League, it's a really difficult run. And I don't know if you think about before Man United, could Newcastle win those 3 home games over the course of the week? Man U, Man City, Barcelona. It's very, very difficult, but they've got themselves off to a brilliant start. And what it does is it sets up the next 2. It's just going to be hard on Saturday without Jacob Ramsey. I don't know if they're going to get anybody back. Maybe Tino Livramento. It's something we'll ask the manager tomorrow. It's just a shame, really, that they can't attack these games with everybody fully fit. But what the players did last night, and with a man down in the second half as well, and first half added on time, was they really showed what they were all about. And it was very much, in my view, like Eddie Howe's Newcastle of old, really, before some of the issues they've had this season. They played like that at times this year, definitely, and hit those heights in certain games, but not consistently. And that's been a running theme and a criticism of them, which they know. But last night just felt really good, even before the red card and all the goals. So they've shown that they can do it, but it was a massive physical effort. So Saturday and Tuesday, and then what follows later in the month, it's going to be really hard, but I can't wait for it. And yeah, it's a big few weeks, but as we've just been talking about, this is what they want. This is where they want to be. And Manchester City, it's a home tie as well, which gives them a much better chance of beating them because they've done well against them generally at home.
Indeed, go and get yourself a glass of water, a good night's sleep, and then you can talk to Eddie Howe in the morning. Right, Matthew Rees.
Total Sport North East.
Call free 0800 234 6565.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
2 ways to send us messages as well. 81333 if it's a text message. 08000 321 333 for your WhatsApp messages. Start them all, though, please, with the letters BBC. Put your name on the end of them as well. But let's go straight to the phones and have a chat with Darryl, who is a Newcastle United fan. Good evening, Darryl.
Good evening, gents. You all right?
Hey,
Yes, thank you. That was quite something last night in the end, wasn't it?
Oh, dear me, was it not? I tell you what, there's nothing like, I'm sure Steve will agree with me here, there's nothing like St James's Park when it's backs against the wall and it's an us versus the world mentality, because it definitely felt for a lot of that game last night like it was 10 versus 12 after Ramsey was sent off. And I think the atmosphere was fantastic. I think I've seen it a few times now, and I think probably the best thing that could ever happen to us is to have something go against us, not necessarily getting a red card, but I think even before then there were certain decisions that the referee made that just really got on the backs of the crowd, and they were very loud and very vitriolic. And when Steve talks about being behind Osula's strike, I was in front of it. So when he hit the ball and it just started to curve, and it just buried itself in the side net, and I mean the place went absolutely ballistic. It was wonderful to be there to witness it and be part of celebrating it in that crowd. And I suppose, I know Steve's already mentioned about the second yellow, but I think this isn't the first time we've had some strange decisions and overall strange refereeing performance. You know, we had recently had that one at Aston Villa. I thought it felt, certainly in our part of the ground, like he was giving Man United as much as he possibly could. I still don't know. I mean, I get that things happened right on half-time last night, but I still don't know how he managed to conjure up 9 minutes. That baffles me. And even at the end, after the game, he managed to conjure up an extra 2 or 3 on top of the 3 that he initially signalled for. And I don't know, Steve, what do you think is happening? Why do you think this is happening with the referees?
Well, first and foremost, the added on time in the first half, if you think about it, I think it was 5 minutes or something, or 3 minutes was added on.
It was 3, yeah.
3 minutes. Then there was the sending off. So he's got to do the sending off. After the sending off, the clock starts again. Then there's the foul for the penalty. So he's deciding it's a penalty, so it's a penalty. We wait for the penalty. Once he scores, the celebration, so they take a while to get back. So, of course, whilst that 3 minutes, they were into it, it wasn't done, because you've still got to add on the time that we've waited for the sending off, we've waited for the penalty, we've waited for the celebration. So that was the first one. And in the second one, it was...
Don't you think, though, Steve...
Well, you've interrupted Marco now. You might as well keep going, yeah.
Well, sometimes with those scenarios, if it wasn't in extra time, they very rarely add minutes on in the first half. You know, they maybe had a minute, or at Leeds the other night we added 2 minutes because there was a couple, you know, there was 2 or 3 injuries. But usually for a celebration or a penalty, they wouldn't add loads of time on. It only seems to be if it's actually within the minutes already.
Yeah, but if you were at the game yesterday, you'd have noticed the celebrations for both of Newcastle's goals lasted a while. Normally, it's about 30 seconds to a minute or something like that they're going to be putting on. But we couldn't get Sula back to kick off. And then, but obviously the fans, all they're looking at, they look at the big scoreboard and they can see the minutes, but they didn't realise the minutes has been ticking on whilst they're celebrating. So all of a sudden now the game starts, I'll have a look at the big screen. What? We've played so many minutes over. We're supposed to finish at such a time. But the referee has to play the time that was added on because of the time it took them to get back to the centre spot to take the kick-off. It was, I mean, for me, I'm watching the game yesterday and I'm looking at it, and I'm not looking at it from, you know, black and white tainted glasses. I'm looking at it from a neutral point of view. I've got to do my job. I get sometimes that some referees' decisions are subjective. I might think it's a foul or not a foul, and vice versa. But I just felt as though it got to the point, and it was so noisy last night. I mean, for the goal celebrations against the referee. But I just felt as though Newcastle fans yesterday, any kind of contact that was going against the Newcastle player, they wanted a foul. And if they got a foul, they wanted a booking. If they got a booking, they wanted a sending off. It was just intense. that I've never heard a referee get booed as loudly in all my life as a player and as like just as a fan just watching a game. It was so loud. I get there's going to be some decisions, but in all fairness, I think it was over the top the way that it went on yesterday with him. I have to be honest. But I mean, I took my mate to the game who's a massive Southern fan, and even he went, "Wow, that was a lot for the referee."
It was similar at Leeds the other night for us.
Yeah, it felt like he did start. Certainly, at some point, it felt like he totally lost control of the game. And I feel like the nine minutes that we ended up with was ever so slightly excessive, considering everything that you said. Which I do agree with, but I still feel like 9 minutes in the end was too much.
Well, it was 6, I suppose. Was it 6 of 6 added on to the original 3? I guess is what we're trying to work out. Whether the VAR check. Well, it's not the VAR check. Sorry, the second yellow for Ramsey, and then the penalty was.
Fair enough. There's Ramsey.
Celebration.
He's got the games. He's got to send them off. Ramsey's not going off. It's not as though he went sent off and Ramsey sprinted off the pitch.
Yeah,
it didn't happen like that. So he's taking his time coming off. Then the game starts, and as soon as it starts, it stops the game because we're looking for a penalty. Then we've got to sort that out. Then it's the taking of the penalty and the waiting, and then he takes the penalty, scores. Then there's the celebration. This adds up.
Yeah,
this time adds up.
My feeling is it probably is an accurate reflection. It's just a more accurate reflection than you get most other weeks and most other games. It's maybe a consistency issue that some people aren't happy with.
Are you basically sort of saying he's damned if he doesn't, damned if he doesn't? So he's doing it right, but he's criticised for doing it right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Yes, I think you're absolutely right.
There you go. Very quickly, because we've only got about 30 seconds before the news. Darryl, how many changes or how significant should the changes be for Saturday?
I think depending on who's fit and who's coming back from injury, probably somewhere in the region of maybe 3 if we can afford to do it. I think that's probably the limit of what we can do. And I think it's interesting noting how Man City performed last night, because they weren't exactly on fire. Forest did really well to get the draw down there, I think.
And we will talk lots more about Saturday tomorrow night as well, but if that's what you want to talk about tonight, you can. Darryl, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Always appreciate it. Andrew says, message for Rays, I don't think I've ever heard you commentate on a goal with as much raw passion and emotion as this one, and I include the cup final goals in that. Maybe Harvey Barnes' winner against West Ham, but truly brilliant work, says Andrew. There are a few others, but Kev in Felling is another one. Says, evening lads, what a game. Must give special mention to Reza for the brilliant commentary. And would Steve Howie agree that Newcastle's performances all over the pitch warranted the 3 points? You more or less answered that one earlier, but a whole team performance.
Yeah, I thought Newcastle were excellent first half with 11 men and second half with 10. And as I said, I thought they deserved it even with 10 men. I thought they were excellent. So, yeah, so really deserved the points.
Do keep your messages coming in as well, even if you're having a go at Steve. There are quite a few of these, essentially. Just sort of essentially just annoyed that you're defending the referee.
Because I'm looking at it. I mean, as I said, Colin, though, I'm looking at it not completely and utterly biased on one side. I get they're going to be, it's always the same if you're looking at it from your team.
This will upset you then.
You're going to do that?
This will upset you. I didn't think it was another yellow card. I thought it was really harsh. That
problem.
Yeah. When you think of all the years we've seen of players rolling over 16 times one way and 15 times the other, and holding a knee, and then the physio comes on, he puts sponge on the wrong knee, and all this simulation we've had for years, I thought that was somebody who, yes, okay, he anticipated, which you can do. You can see a challenge coming and think, oh, well, I'm get out of the way of this, or I'm going to take a hit here. But, he didn't appeal, he didn't roll around, he went to get straight back up. But before he could stand up, the referee was on top of him. I thought it was really harsh.
He got straight back up because he'd realised that what he went to go for, he didn't get, and then realised it was too late. That's my opinion.
It wasn't one of those ones where he threw himself off the diving board and
I guess the argument, Marco,
we don't
is
see
going for the same thing.
Yeah, I guess the argument maybe, Marco, sort of 500 wrongs don't make a right. It not being given in lots of other instances doesn't mean it shouldn't be given in this instance. perhaps?
Well, it
As
does
I
because
said, though,
they
we've
need to do it in all the other ones. That's the issue. That this is what upsets people, is that you see.
Well, it will
players...
upset people, but if you've got Newcastle fans ringing up or looked at that and just see if it was Fernandes who'd done it, I guarantee you, 99% of them would have said he was cheating. I understand he didn't do this, he didn't do that, but he was looking for the penalty. The referee was right. I guarantee you they would.
And just
I thought it was his momentum really sort of. He was travelling at pace. Yes, that he didn't make it to the ball and he went down. But I don't think it was. I think it was more a thing where you've got blast. I didn't get to that one. Drop to the
Again,
floor.
though, if the referee
I don't
doesn't
think he
give
was
it,
looking for it.
There's going to be. Should the referee have given him a second yellow card? That's
yeah.
The damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Should Dan Burn have been sent off for his elbow?
We spoke about this after the game, and I thought, looking at it and rewatching it, Shaw has a hold of him, and Dan Burns trying to get him off, and he does catch him, but I don't think it's intentional. So no.
Yeah. Just a couple to round this off, and then we will talk to Ian. Tommy in Wallsend says Maguire and Fernandes got Ramsey the second yellow, and Mike in Whitley Bay absolutely astonished at Steve Howe's opinion on Jacob Ramsey's dismissal. With VAR, you would think it's really difficult to be a poor referee, but apparently not. Bruno Fernandes made most of the decisions for him anyway, says Mike in Whitley Bay. Is the goalkeeper? Is the referee sort of stuck in this scenario where he's made a decision after he's been surrounded by players? In his head, he's not made the decision because he's been surrounded by players, but that's just the perception. Steve?
Well, but as I said, fans are going to think that because they can say that's what they're looking at. But as I said, if we completely change this around and do it the other way, and if it was Fernandes doing it, or Sesko or something, you're going to see it. He's 100% trying to cut the referee.
Just one more, because it's a point actually on this topic that I haven't really touched on. John sent a message, says it would help if the likes of Ramsey and Joe Linton didn't get booked for stupid shirt pullings in the first place, and we wouldn't be having this conversation as anything like as much if Ramsey hadn't already been booked for what was a very, very silly one.
Well, there's another one as well, and it was a big one, and this was a big conversation at the end of in the dressing room. Joe Linton got booked. And he was absolutely furious. And he drags the lad back. I mean, Joe Linton, as I've said a million times on this show, in a good way, he is a bully. But in a good way, you'd want him in your team. You see 50-50s and the opposition player look up and see who's coming towards him, and they're back right off because he's just an animal. He is a beast. He got booked, and it was Talari who had to more or less pull him away. He clapped the referee. It was a sarcastic clap. But what he did was he clapped and put his hands in the air. He didn't do it in front of him, because if he does it in front of him, it's an automatic. You're getting booked again and off you go. But he did it in the air. Now, Joe Linton could turn around and say, I'm just trying to get the fans up. 1,000,000%, in my opinion, that is not what he's doing. What he's doing is clapping the referee and being sarcastic. But you couldn't give it because you only know that the only, who knows exactly what he was doing is Joe Linton.
Yeah.
But again, if that was Fernandes or somebody from Man United, I guarantee we'd have phone calls on this show tonight about that as well.
And just to clarify then, so that wasn't missed by the referee, it was just that it couldn't be definitively seen as dissent, and therefore
he had a conversation with the fourth official, because the fourth official seen it aware seen it as well. They had a conversation. They can't guarantee that that's what he meant. So you can't.
No, fair enough. And that sort of insight,
percentage, I'm going to sort of say that. So, but as I said, if it was the other way around, and we're having this conversation, we're talking tonight, and it was Fernandes that did it, I'm not picking up Fernandes, but I'm just sort of saying it's nobody really likes him. It will be the other way. It will be certainly being discussed tonight.
Yes, and thank you, Steve, because I know we've kept Ian on for a little while, but that's the kind of insight that we struggle to get across the rest of the week, and it's very interesting to have insights into those conversations. So thank you for that. This is Total Sport on BBC Radio Newcastle. Despite the objections from certain sections of this programme, we're going to hear a little bit more from last night's game? Well, Dan Byrne was named man of the match last night. He says the victory over Manchester United, one of the most satisfying of his Newcastle career.
Yeah, right up there. I think we spoke about it at half time and said we could sort of make this one of the best results we've had in sort of the gaffer's tenure here. And to a man, I thought were brilliant. I think we've shown that resilience, which we haven't shown as much as we would have liked to in sort of previous weeks. And obviously buzzing that Will comes on and scores an absolute worldie. So.
Can I ask for your reflections on the sending off in the first half, which clearly changed the state of the game, but what did you make of the second yellow?
Yeah, tough. Listen, I've not seen it again, so I didn't say it. I thought JJ got up pretty quickly, so I was hoping that we might have gotten away with it, but I think the ref sort of set the tone really by booking players so early, so I think it was one of those, once he'd booked one person, he was just going to keep booking people. So yeah, tough one to take, especially for JJ, because I think he's been brilliant last few weeks, showing real quality and probably didn't deserve that. But as I said, I think it's shown sort of great resilience from us as a team and great character, which I think we've shown countless times in the last sort of 4 years to pick up a big result.
Did the manager use that sort of sense of injustice at half time?
I think so. I think we've always sort of had that mentality where it's like us against the world. Very early on, the gaffer brought that in, and I felt we had that tonight. And I think playing sort of under the lights on a weekday night at St James's always seems to have that little bit more bite about it. And I've said it before, but I don't know if it's just me personally. Or Newcastle fans, I don't particularly like Man United, so it's always nice to beat them. Obviously, they're doing so well at the minute as well, so it's a very good result for us.
And can I just ask, when you saw Will Osula set off on his run down the right, what were you thinking at that point? Were you expecting what happened next?
No, probably run at the corner. But no, listen, we spoke about it there. He was practicing that in training yesterday, cutting in both sides and whipping it, and I know he's got that quality. So it was nice that he could pull it off on such a special night, and I think that's probably the quickest I've run all season, trying to run to celebrate with him as well. So yeah, no, really, really happy.
Well, that's three different opinions or witness statements we've had now that William Osula was practicing that precise goal a couple of days before he scored it. Let's have a chat with Alan, who's a Newcastle fan, who joins us on the line. Good evening, Alan. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Good evening, Colin. It's Steve and Marco. I got a phone call. I was going to come on, and I was still chuckling from the previous caller, the Sunderland lad. You know, I thought it was a little bit rich, saying that Joe Linton was a red card waiting to happen. He's like that every game we watch is Newcastle, the same guy. But they've got a lad there, he could be nicknamed the Boston Strangler. You know, every team has one like that.
Yes, Luke O'Nien was, I think...
Yeah, Luke O'Nien's got some kind of special pass. He's got a special pass.
Huh? No?
I don't know how he does.
Never mind.
To be fair, actually, there are some... Look, Joe Linton has grabbed a few people.
Why?
He loves a little grab round the throat and a little... gives him a little... roughs them up a little bit blatantly. So,
I can't argue.
Just some people just seem to get away with it.
Yeah,
but it's funny.
He does that every week.
Well, that's the thing, and people have said tonight, Alan, that he's always on the verge of a red card. Yeah. I don't know if either you or Steve can remember the last time Joe Linton was actually sent off for Newcastle.
That's correct. No, I can't remember.
No, well, that's because he's never been sent off for Newcastle.
Right.
But, yeah, never ever.
That's amazing. No?
He was sent off once for Brazil whilst playing for Newcastle, but he's not had a red card in a club game since July 2017. So he's getting on for 8.5, almost 9 years since he was sent off in a club.
You'll never stop learning.
Exactly. There we are. But what did he come on to talk about specifically, Alan?
What I wanted to talk about, I can see where Steve was come from. He's come from the official side of it, and I heard Marco's point of view, and to be honest, I'm more with Marco than where I am with Steve. But again, I've got to agree with Steve. If it happened at the other end, I would want it. However, one thing I do know, the rules were broke on this occasion. First of all, the referee points for a goal kick. And there's only one man allowed to approach, and that's a captain, and that's Bruno the Mouse Fernandes, who never stops opening it from the first minute and even till the game's finished. That's the guy. However, this is a point I'm going to make to you all. He was surrounded by players, and that's illegal in the game. The referee should have shoved him away, but he was allowed, and I think he changed his mind.
Steve, on the point about being surrounded by players that and Alan is absolutely right, that has been outlawed.
Yeah, that's Steve.
Yeah, I mean the referee will only speak to the captain, but during a game and at the heat of the moment, a player that's not the captain is not going to keep stum and not say anything just because he's only speak to the captain. A player is going to give his opinion. He's going to say something to the referee.
That's
going
correct.
To stand there mute.
What about
all
the
going
rest
to do
that
that.
surrounded him?
Well, I think there was a couple. I think there was 3 or 4. But again, you can't. I don't know what you want the referee to do, or you want the Premier League to do if that happens on the pitch at that particular moment. Of course, they're told, they know the directive, but ultimately, if they're incensed by what they think the player's done, whether that's for Newcastle or against Newcastle or Man United or Sunderland or whoever, players will voice their opinion.
Yes, that's right. So that's fair enough what you say, Steve. But as regards the game itself, I thought the first half, they more than matched them in the first half, and they said Joe Linton was one of the best players. I think his wife must have been feeding him and raw meat diet again. He's got back on that because he won everything. He didn't only win everything, he played some great balls, and he was involved with neat passing throughout that first half in particular, along with Tonali and
I thought he was excellent the first half. I thought he was excellent, but I think as like a number of players, I thought Hall had a very good game. I thought Trippier did. Dan Burn. Tonali is just, constantly up and down, trying to get involved. Joe Linton. I thought there was a number of them that were excellent.
As regards the young lad winning the game at the last minute, not many people thought that was going to happen because he was like stuck on the touchline, and then he stumbled on the way to win the ball, and then when he got the ball, he was in a bad position. He had to move inside, but he showed some composure, mind, to finish that off, and ability, mind. He'll probably never score one in his career as good as that.
He comes across as the shy retirement type as well, doesn't he?
Oh, I don't think so.
Not.
He's full of it, man.
Dear.
He's a Premier League footballer. He's entitled to be proud of where he's got to and enjoying life. Any other points you wanted to make, Alan?
No, just keep on playing like that and I'll be happy.
Oh, that's a little take. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Alan. Thank you as always. Lots of other messages on various different things. I want to read this one though from Jason, who's in Ohio, who says, first, as always, Razor and Ando, fantastic on the commentary last night. It was still in the work day over here in the States. Listening to the games makes work go by faster. I want to thank Razor for at the end of the broadcast for mentioning that Darren Eales was in attendance and doing well. Razor's always so kind. It was very thoughtful to pass that information on to the fans. Just want to make sure that Razor knows it was appreciated and how good he's been to Jason in particular over the years with his time when I met him at St James's. We're lucky to have him, says Jason. Here. There has been lots of very positive feedback. Many of us getting individual messages as well as Razor himself for the commentary last night. So well done, Razor. And this one for you, Steve, on Newcastle and on the game last night is from Brian. It was a morale-boosting win against the odds. 10 men against 12, says Brian. We had Darryl saying that earlier as well. It'll silence the Howe critics for the moment. However, I wonder how all of our efforts, injuries, and the suspension for Ramsey will affect us in the 3 huge games coming up. It's more than 3, but I take your point. We've already played 46 games this season. We haven't got the squad to cope, especially with our forwards not firing, says Brian.
Yeah, I mean, obviously only time will tell. We kind of semi-discussed this earlier on in the show that it's a tough ask. Look at with the games coming up thick and fast, and this is the games before the play Sunderland. But as I said, the squad's going to get tested. It's going to get stretched. They have had injuries, but that's why you have the squads that you do. Could the strength of the squad be stronger? 100%. Yes, it could. But as I said, the players that are involved, it's a great time to be involved. It's a great time to be playing Manchester City at this stage of the FA Cup at home. It would be brilliant. It's a great time to be playing Barcelona. A great time to play Barcelona anytime. A great time to be involved when you could hopefully be involved in a derby. That hasn't happened for absolutely ages. These are times when, being a footballer is what it's all about. Yes, it's tough. You play top opposition. Well, if it's not for you, then drop down to non-league or Sunday league football.